G'day and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Joe for their ongoing support in bringing you our fortnightly Q&A.
Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Tony Overton from Guida, Working Kelpies. Working Kelpies?
Working Kelpies.
Working Kelpies.
I was nervous I couldn't say Guida.
You couldn't say Guida. So I've had a bit of dealings with our Guida Shire, so yeah, we'll have that discussion before dinner.
Every time I read it differently. So I had to check, and then I'm like, I can't say it live, so we had to swap.
But you just said it. You got it. Good work.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How you going, Tony?
Good team. Yep, good.
How's your day, mate? What did you get up
to? Started a bit rough. We've got so we're crutching at the moment, and got a new handler, and took a while to iron a few little crinks out of it before we got going. But left a crew down there, and then I had one of my lovely days. I'm actually mustering a whole heap of little mobs for crutching tomorrow afternoon back here. So, yeah, casual day. So, good.
How many are little mobs? Like, how many's in a little mob for you?
Oh, these are, we run two extremes, 50.
Yep.
So 500 in 10 mobs. So single side matings. Yeah, so little joining mobs. So, yeah.
And the other extreme of that you've mentioned?
The other at the moment used, I think it's 4,700 in it. So, yeah. So we sort of run a rotation sort of system. Yeah, your lambs in one, and so. Yep.
For some of our listeners that might not know you, Tony, do you just want to tell us where you're from, what you do?
Yep. So I grew up little town Gravesend, which is on the Guida River. It's about 50k east of Moree. Youngest of three boys, mixed sheep and cattle and cropping sort of stuff. You know, young farm kids, had a wow of a time as a kid. Spent a fair bit of time riding push bikes and chasing sheep on push bikes and all those sort of things. And pretty happy days as a kid, I reckon. Pretty carefree, easy, out in the sticks. You know, old days, come home when the lights come on. That was sort of it. All helping Dad. My brothers probably weren't as keen on that front, but I was sort of always by his side, I suppose. That's sort of where I grew up. Kicked off to boarding school in Tamworth, and then headed north Jackarooing. And my mother, I think, as I left, I think she said something like, "Well, we won't see him again for a long time." It wasn't actually to be that. After 12 months sitting on a horse chasing cows, I thought, there's got to be a bit more to life than just chasing cows. So I actually decided, which my mother was shocked at, to go and get further education and go to ag college, which headed down to Victoria to go and do that. So that's sort of where it sort of started, and on and off there, and never really stopped moving for a fair few years once I got going on that front. So travelled around a fair bit and was a bit aloof, I suppose. I think my parents never was going to stop, but anyway,
And back in the Guida Shire now, I take it, having Guida Working Kelpies?
No. So Mum and Dad sold, the old sold in 97. So sort of a blessing in disguise, I suppose. Being the youngest of three boys, it was always a tough gig how they decided to split it, or it wasn't enough to for two families, or sort of those succession planning. So Mum and Dad decided to put it on the market and sold it. And one bit of me sort of said, "Oh yeah, that's a shame that's gone." But it opened a lot of other doors that I'm really grateful that it actually sort of kicked me out of the nest and went and did other stuff and did my own things. And I wouldn't be into dogs now, I reckon, if I'd sort of stayed at home. Or I think I lasted two weeks at home after leaving ag college, so it wasn't very successful. So it wasn't paying me, and I think I've decided I had to go and get a job that paid money pretty quickly. So Guida, that's where it sort of came from. It comes back from the roots, and it's an unusual name, I suppose. So so
definitely testing for an announcer that doesn't know how to say it.
I think I've heard something. Some people say it's Gaelic or something, which they say it's totally different, I think. So
yeah, right. Yep.
But I'm not sure of the background. I always thought it was Aboriginal, but who knows?
So where are you residing now, Tony?
So I live at Walker now.
Yep.
So I manage a place up here. I've been here 21 years. So it's a super fine or ultra fine merino. So we're running sort of between 17 to 20,000 of them, joining sort of 7 to 8,000 ewes. And running sort of at the moment with sort of 500 to 600 cows plus followers, depending on season. So, so it's pretty good. I've been here a while. Got 4 staff, 4 pretty handy staff, so it's good. These days, I don't spend much time on the tools. I'll probably spend more time in the office. So I run pretty much everything for the company. You name it, for directors to whatever. So office, too much office, but it makes me actually really enjoy going to do a stock job. But I can go a week. Shearing time, we probably shear for 4 or 5 weeks, and quite often I don't even work a dog in that period, unless it's weekend and I have to make the decision to go and do it, sort of thing. So that's changing. Yeah.
Do you find getting out and working your dogs away from the office kind of soothing?
Oh, I always have. Yeah. If I have a blue with the wife, I go and work some sheep or something. So not that happens very often, but the only thing, you get rusty though. You sort of go, oh, how am I going to do this? Whereas I would never thought about how you'd do it before. So, but I do enjoy getting on the tools, and I'm probably a lot more relaxed at the end of the day when I've been doing stock work. Yeah.
You said you were sort of wouldn't have been into dogs if your parents didn't sell their place. Did you have dogs growing up, or where did they come about?
Yeah, we always had dogs. Pretty loose term working dogs, I think. They were good at chasing foxes and rabbits and riding on the back of the ute. I do remember my father, he bought a dog, and I'm not sure of the breeding, but she was a pretty handy old red and tan bitch, I can remember, as a little kid. So my father wasn't a farmer. So he grew up in Windsor. Grew up in Sydney, and they lived in Windsor, actually, before they moved the farm, and he decided he was going farming, and I think he was 28 or 30 or something year old when he decided. So he was an engineer. So my mother was originally sort of Moree country, but she was in Sydney teaching fashion. So that's sort of how they met, and they moved back to the farm. So he was pretty open-minded about farming and did a lot of stuff differently to what a lot of other people did in them days, which I sort of think he sort of put into us boys pretty well. If you want to do something, go and do it, and don't be afraid of doing it differently, sort of thing. So I probably still do a lot of stuff differently, do a lot of things, and I think I like to stew on things and think about things a lot. Makes for good mind thought. I can drive 12 hours, no worries, no music, no sound, and just have my thoughts. So stew on stuff. Yep.
That's a massive change. Like your old boy there, like an engineer, and mum in fashion, but original country girl to start with. But that's was not a sea change, but massive lifestyle change, right?
Yeah. He always loved farming. Always wanted to be a farmer. He had an uncle who was a dairy farmer down on the south coast somewhere, and he used to go and spend holidays down there with him. And that was it. And so everything he knew, and so he wasn't much of a dog man. Knew nothing, and he still questions me now. He says, I just don't understand why you pull the sheep to you, or you're running past a gateway past you, or he still sort of doesn't get that bit, I suppose, but he doesn't have to. So he doesn't have to do it anymore. So, but it opened, so back to how I got round to dogs, I suppose. Ag college was a year at college and then a year working in a year. So I went over to Western Australia and got myself a pup to go over there. And it was pretty mad. Actually, it was very mad, pretty useless. But that's, your jackaroo dog. He was pretty cool. And when I came back, I actually lent him to a bloke, and he said he's no good for any young fella. But so the dog was no longer. But I left college and ended up back at a place, Roxby Park in Victoria, and it was a research-based place and a sort of trying to push the limits on what you could do in a grazing enterprise. So Melbourne Uni had a fair bit to do with it. So we're running about 14,000 sheep, and I had dogs, and I thought they were pretty handy. They could back a race and pack it tight and do all those sort of things and bark. But I'd end the end of the day and pretty much couldn't speak and have a sore throat and be pretty cranky and hot. And it wasn't from the drenching; it was just trying to work the dogs. And saw an ad in the paper, dog school, Neil McDonald dog school, and thought, well, that can't hurt. So I went and did that, and pretty much from there, it just sort of snowballed, and it just a fit for me. Like, just sort of got into dogs and started, working on the ones I had, and then I actually bought a bitch sort of not long after that, and I actually pulled the pin on the job and went overseas for a year, which gave her to a mate and just looked after her for a while I was over there, and it was good because I cleaned out all the old ones, gave them to mates or whatever else, and then and the dog thing really struck with me. So while I was over there, I spent a bit of time with the hounds in Exmoor, and then did a bit with sled dogs up in Scandinavia, and just the whole dog thing. And only talked to Blake the other day, I got an option to go to the Pyrenees with one of them great big guard dogs, and it would sound like a good gig, but to be in the Pyrenees for about 5 months by yourself, sort of for a young, I think I must have been 22, 23-year-old, was a bit daunting. So, but I look back now, I think, gee, it would have been a good example. But so I always love dogs and animals anyway, and I enjoy horses. I'm just hopeless at riding them. I can get on one and put a leg on the side, but they're just not comfortable. That's just one of them things that used to ride a horse a lot. My wife's very big into horses, so there's plenty of them around here. But I haven't been on a horse for a long time. So,
right. And when it comes back to your dogs, like you're very open-minded as well. Like you mentioned that Neil McDonald school there, but I know you've gone to other dog seminars and training things with nothing about working dogs as well, just to broaden your own mind a bit.
Yeah, well, I to go bigger than just dogs, I love learning stuff. I think it's really cool to sort of get knowledge on random things. It doesn't matter, but things sort of fall in your lap, and it's probably one of the things that I'm being put into us. Don't ever, and it's like I've had a lot of jobs before I came here of anything, and just if a door opens, just step through it, take it, have a crack. You can always change jobs again. I reckon from when I left Roxby Park to when I started here, I probably wasn't in one spot for probably more than 6-8 weeks. Random stuff. So I when I came back, I actually came back to milk cows for a mate at Echuca, which I'd never milked cows, and I said to him, I know nothing about milking cows. And he's like, no, you understand animals, it'll be right. So when I came back there, I actually started collecting dogs again, as you tend to do. So a lot of secondhand dogs that I needed to get started. And we broke in, I think it was something like 1,400 cows from herringbone onto rotary, and used dogs to do most of it. Just instead of you just hitting them with an electric gate all the time, just forcing up, bringing them up to get them on, and a fair bit of shove and push the first few days when they've come off trucks. But so that's sort of, milking cows, drilling bores, driving cotton pickers. It didn't matter. It was money. It was a job, and all them things you put in the back of your mind, going that might help somewhere in something on what you're doing. Like even though we're a full grazing enterprise now, I did a year in Western Australia, and you learn stuff there that you can move anywhere. So never knock back the offer of knowledge, because I reckon the value of knowledge is everything. Like, how do we get transfer of knowledge? And I think we're losing that in today's world. I don't know why, but I think I don't know how you put a value on it. And to me, it's priceless. But a lot of knowledge should be free, whereas it's not anymore, I think. And I understand. So my knowledge giving out isn't free either. But you got to put food on the table somehow. But I've worked for a lot of blokes that, and I'll still, if there's someone I want to know something off, I'm quite happy to pack my bag, roll a swag, and go and camp with them for 2 weeks for no pay, nothing, just because I know they've got something in their brain that I want. So, and I've done a lot of that over the years, and that sort of, that sort of leads me to one of my greatest learners, I think, was a bloke called Chris Donahue. So after milking cows, I went contracting, still with Neil McDonald and those sort of things, and run into, did a Bud Williams school down in Victoria, and Jim Lindsay was there, and I sort of said to Jim, I wouldn't mind coming up and spending a bit of time, and I was actually going up to do a job in Queensland anyway, so I went there and met a bloke, Chris Donahue, and he sort of tucked me under his wing and said, mate, do you want to come and do a few weaners with us? And still to this day, he's probably the best dog man. Like, put him on a trial and he'd probably be a hopeless, but in my mind, one of the best dog men I've probably ever worked with. Broke in, 25, 30,000 weaners a year. And his dogs, all cow dogs, but could still go and get them on with billy goats or work sheep. Had plenty of grip, hold, plenty of strength, but they just figured out to do a job, and they knew their job. And he didn't say much to them. They just, you could have a mob of 800 weaners, and all of a sudden the weight's going one way, and all of a sudden 4 dogs turns up out one side of a mob with no commands, nothing. You think, how do they know that? And he's like, because you let them know that. Like that's what they're bred to do. They're bred to sense stuff. So he taught me a lot. He's still a good mate. He's out of the job a bit now, but yeah, he actually runs a pound at a pound what do you call a dog home?
Yeah, like rescue organisation.
No, not rescue. Kennels for all sorts at Toowoomba. Yeah, so
yeah.
So yeah, I reckon I've been lucky with lots of blokes like that. Yeah, so
deep toolbox, mate.
Yeah, and still learning. Like, the more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. So yeah, I reckon if it's a scale of 1 to 10, I'm sitting at about number 3. I reckon. So yeah, there's plenty to learn.
For someone that's got such a thirst to learn like that, you mentioned earlier you got 4 staff there.
Yep.
You've been with the same mob for 21 years, so I'm assuming you got a little bit of push and pull. How do you go about educating, like giving those guys or people the time to learn different skills, and like even like training the dogs, for example? Yeah, all right, well, every Friday, 4:00, we're going to knock off, we're going to spend some time together. Like, how do you help develop your staff?
I don't know. You just do it. I think you've got to. I like to give the staff opportunities, and I've been in trouble, not trouble, but I had a girl work for me for a lot of years, and she was out of Sydney, and we couldn't find anyone. Gave her a start. I think she was 44 years old when she came. She was about 45 kilos wringing wet, and we're really good mates still. So she still lives in town here, and she always said to me, "Why don't you show people straight up how to do it properly the first one?" I kept saying, "Well, you can tell them straight up, but they won't listen. They got to burn, they got to sweat, they got to feel some pain, and they got to feel some frustration first, and then you say, I got an idea." And that's sort of probably how I teach is leave them to it, and also say, how do I know that someone doesn't know something that I don't? They go to get a mob of sheep, and I'll watch them, and I might be hiding over a hill or somewhere, but you watch what they're doing, and why should I be telling them what to do? How do I know they don't know something I don't? So just because they're I run the show and they're working for me, that doesn't mean they don't know something that I don't. So I'm really, I give a lot of opportunity there when that's there, I suppose, and let them grow. And, that doesn't mean you don't put the foot in the collar every now and then and say, hey, mate, you need to just pull up a bit on that or whatever. But, yeah, generally I leave them to it. So my 2 IC, I think he might have been here 8 years or something like that. He pretty much does what he wants to do, I suppose, but he knows what's got to happen, and we chat about it. And got a young bloke who he sort of come from the rough side of town, I suppose, and he's a top kid. I call him a kid. I think he's 21 or 22 or something. But he's kicking goals, and he's the sort of bloke I've told him, he'll spend a few years with me, and I'll probably kick him out and go and work for someone else. You know what I've felt. That's going. I don't want my 2 IC to leave, but the young fellas got to get out and experience life and go and work.
Yeah.
people sort of thing. So, yeah,
Mhm.
got to create opportunities for them, you know.
Yeah,
Has-
experience something else, and then if he wants to come back
Oh,
later.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Take that
people.
little job.
Yeah, I don't like to think that people work for me. I like to think that people work with me. Like,
Yeah.
we're a team, and you know they must. And I'm sure, you know, being the boss, that they sit there in the yards and it's a crap job, and I'm sitting in the nice warm office, and they're like, "Yeah, you sit in the office again," sort of thing. So that's the nature of the beast, and that's how it should be. That's the buck stops at the top. So I'm quite happy to cop the flack if there is any. So, but usually I'd like to think that they could tell me if they're pretty cranky about something. But you know, we've had good staff, we've had bad staff. I don't know, over 20 years we've had all sorts, I suppose. So yeah.
I was going to say you've probably had a fair few staff come through the front gate, but how do you sort of like pick your staff to begin with? Sort of, if someone was looking for a job, what should they be showing you when they're coming in to say hello?
Oh, you should take them for a drive and watch how they open the gate. Got to have enthusiasm. You can't put enthusiasm into someone. If they don't want it, you can't make them want it. They got to want it.
So how do they have to open up the gate then?
Very quickly. Skip.
I've probably only ever sacked probably 2 or 3 people, I reckon, and it's due to the lack of enthusiasm. Is probably the, you know, like you can, you know, the old saying, you lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. It's, you know, can I get on? And whether they've, you know, the good ones all, you know, before they've even got out of the ute, they know which end of the latch of the gate is, and they've headed there and they've got it open. And away before they get out, they say, "Do you want it left open or shut?" Or you know, and they notice how it was shut before, so they can shut it again. I know it sounds.
No, I get what you're saying.
Wrapping a chain around from the bottom and just over the top, and just little things.
Yep. And we got some, you know, like every farm, there's some good gates.
There's some not so good gates.
Staff used to be sort of hard to get, but now with got a bit more dog stuff going on, and I'm probably out there a bit more doing dog stuff that people probably want to come and work for us more, I suppose. So that's
How in 21 years there, mate, how has the way you've handled stock changed, and or has it in that instance? And with different people, people are different to what they were 20 years ago, right? Like, let's just say it how it is. Like, how have you changed the way you people as well with the staff coming through to help nurse them a bit?
No, I don't think people have changed. I think people are still people. Their DNA is still what it is. Good people are good people, and not so good ones aren't so good. But you still give them all the opportunity. And I don't I try not to judge. I do, but you try, you know, like anyone, try not to judge people. And often quirky people actually enjoy their time. You know, I like people a bit different for some reason, and because usually with comes different comes something a bit special. You know, it's So the stock handling stuff. Look, I was probably getting frustrated when I was doing contract stuff. Very rarely would we handle stock twice or 3 times or over consecutive years. Like, there was a few places we would go back. So like I was. Chris probably taught me about educating livestock was huge. So between Chris and Neil McDonald started it off. So I did schools with Neil and did a run up the Gulf, and we spent a lot of time together. You know, I don't know how many schools we would have done together, or him doing it and me sturgeon for him, or you know, cruising about. So the stock handling stuff became very, very big in my mind. And the other thing from my background too at Roxby Park and Ag College, I've got a huge production orientation on what I do. So like we sort of mentioned earlier, I'm probably not the best IT dude, but I love tweaking production and love pushing production to its limits on what I do day to day. So that goes in hand with educated livestock and efficiencies in livestock. So that's, if I go into a school, that's my go-to is, you know, people think they come there for a dog school, but it's actually how to make more money and be happier. That's the nutshell of what I try and teach. So when I came here, and no disrespect to the crew that used to work here, it was a fairly good show. There were mobs of sort of 30, 35 cows, and it took 3 blokes and about 20 dogs to try and get them in the yards. And it was good sport. And she's about 9K at the back of the place, and it could take them about 40 minutes to get them here, which there's a fair few others swinging, and it was good entertainment. So I went, cool, this is a good challenge. And the sheep were probably similar, I suppose. So instead of, it's not something I walk in and say, well, we need to change this. I'm always a big fan of just do stuff, just do it subtly and small changes. And all of a sudden, and I remember after being here about 3 years, my boss, he's called up and he said, can you get them blokes to slow them cattle up? They're going too quick. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing, like feedlots, they were at a stage of nearly not buying our cattle, and after, I don't know how many years it was, but when you get on to second generations calvies and things start to snowball.
Yeah.
So educated livestock's huge, but feedlot buyers they stopped coming. They didn't. They just said send them. They knew they were going to be right temperament wise. So and it's interesting. Same genetics, same cows, whatever else, just how you handle them.
Learn behaviours.
Huge difference. So yeah, and there's a lot of things that are. I'd love to be able to set up a trial, but you can't do a trial on an educated flock or herd to an uneducated. And they've done a lot of research in cattle, but sheep, there's not a lot of research. And one of the biggest things I love to teach animals is to, like, everyone's low stress hock handling is the big fashionable thing, and it's great what they're doing, but I don't go with the name, because low stress stock handling implies that you never put stress on them. To me, you need to put stress on animals so that they need to understand what it is and how to handle it and how to cope with it, because somewhere along
it's not been exposed, right?
Yep, somewhere along the line they're going to get stress put on them.
Yeah.
So I love Neil McDonald used to say, you got to bash them with a feather, if that makes sense. That was one of his favourite sayings, I think. So, and that's where dogs come in. That the dog can put pressure on and take it off very, very quickly. Yeah, mm-hmm. So that's where the dogs come into it. And then the production side of it, the efficiency of, I can send any one of my staff pretty much to go and get our flock ewes in, which there's, I think it's 4,700 of them or something, and I know that they're going to come in right. We run pretty much everything's big mobs except we run a stud or nucleus. They're in little mobs for joining and stuff, but through when ewes are dry, we've got a mob of flock ewes and a mob of maiden ewes, and that's about it. Mob of weather lambs, mob of ewe lambs, and they're all on rotations. Our weather's a set stock because they're in some pretty rough country. That's sort of and the gains, I think production gains that we've got out of that are huge. So, not saying we don't have worms, but our worms are probably less than the majority in the New England, where the home of the worm. And I think last time I figured out we're sort of 11 drenches in 5 years, which on our ewes. So little things that I reckon they can handle stress and they can handle things better, and it builds a better animal,
Mm-hmm.
So just to get that right, like, you also think like, and I like to say, because there's a question here I wrote down 2 years ago and we've never actually asked it, but do you think there'd be equal benefits in educating lambs after weaning as same as like cattle?
Yeah, for sure. But the big difference is this will be controversial, because someone said, you need to get something controversial. Sheep learn like 5 times quicker than cattle do. So you don't actually need to put them through an education process. So we were on about a 4 or 5 day turnaround on weaner cattle. We don't consciously say, right, we're going to go and educate our lambs, but if you handle them right and you process them from when you muster them to when you draft them up to whatever you're processing in weaning, we leave them in the yards overnight, but then we just walk them out to paddock. They'll be in a holding paddock, and then we muster them. We'll just stockpile them until there's, most of the lambs, there might be 7,000 or 8,000 and then we'll bring them back in and process them, drench them, and draft them up or whatever we need to do with them. So in that time is enough to educate them. And like my lambs, they're straight back out and they're eating grass straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like as you're walking them back to the paddock, they're eating grass. And it's all to do with pressure and relief, and you got to put pressure. They get pressure put on them, and it's not like we're sooling into them, but I'm big on putting pressure where you don't want them, and they get relief where they want to go. So, and that's the essence of it. We're not really sooling them up with a heap of dogs. It's pretty calm and pretty steady, but and the production. I think I always try to remember the numbers, and I'm not that good at remembering individual numbers. That's why I have diaries and phones now. But I think we drafted about 7,000 lambs, and I think it took us about 3 or 4 hours last year. That was just straight sexing. So, they flow really well, and that's not by sooling up. And that's. But don't worry if it's not happening, we make it happen because the sun will go down before it doesn't. So, very patient but. If they're not towing the line, well, we'll load them up with pressure. Yeah. So
you were saying like there hasn't been a trial done on like sheep as opposed to cattle with the second calving sort of thing. But do you think it's the same? The second lot of, I don't know the right terminology, but the second generation of like your ewe lambs, for example, wean better, they lamb better, everything because you've been handling them the same.
Yep.
They know to go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you've had a ewe that's been galloped around the flat all her life and then she has a lamb, well, the lamb's going to learn straight up. It's gallop around the flat time every time you see a person. Whereas if you've got a ewe that's like, oh yeah, there he is, cool. Oh, there's a dog. Yep, cool. Let's mob up and go and whatever.
Yeah.
That lamb's going to, And in saying that, don't worry, it's not perfect what we do. Like we can run a show sometimes. It goes pear shaped.
Yeah. Do you think that's the same or can be the same in dogs?
My word. Yeah.
We've all a product of two things, right?
Well, no.
Our genetics, and our education.
Yeah, I just mean like those sort of learnt behaviours, but to a point they're almost genetic, aren't they?
There's a bit of interesting stuff being done on genetics that the genetics aren't all in there. There's a belief that there's a certain amount of phenotype in genotype as well. What makes a gene express itself can be environmental. Which is interesting. So, and I probably treat my dogs very similar. Like I love, probably don't do it well enough, but spending time with pups, and I'm big on got to imprint pups, got to put time on them, and Dan alluded to earlier. So one of my good mates, he for a birthday, mate and a wife, my wife birthday present, we went down to Parramatta Road for a dog school, which was very, very much out of my comfort zone, I can tell you, but there's a lady there, Sharonica Williams, who's very, very good with the dog. And learn a whole lot of stuff about imprinting and got a good mate out of that. And she always said to me, "Does it frustrate that you're not teaching your pups anything?" I'm like, "It's a 6-week-old pup. How much can you teach it?" She's like, "Well, can I take one home and I'll show you?" And by that night, she's got it doing all sorts of miraculous thing. And that's not necessarily on command, but it's imprinting them to actually learn to learn. And I'm a big fan on the earlier you can teach your dog to learn something.
Do you mean like how to learn? Like you're opening up that like
about a dinner, like cognition testing.
Yeah.
They've got to learn to learn. And in saying that,
I don't understand.
It's just like little tests to get them to see how they how they learn. Like are they memory learners? Are they visual learners?
Yeah.
No, I don't do any. I don't test them. And I say, and you can do too much of it too. Which I got a dog there at the moment. He's just mad, and I did a heap of tug stuff with him, and it lifted him, and he's high, and he's just high in life. Like he's a maniac, and he does my head in. But there's obviously a reason why I've still got him. I don't know why, but he's a good work dog. He can shift sheep, but you put him on a trial ground, and you just think, why am I doing this to myself? But yeah. So everything's in balance. Like you can do too much of something, because a lot of those things is to get dogs high, to get them, full engaged.
Open them up.
Whereas a working dog, I don't think we want them fully engaged. We want them listening, and we want them tuned in with us, but we don't want them all about us. There's other stuff going on that we want them to think about and concentrate. Yeah, so you can do too much of it, I reckon. But I'm pretty green on it, really. It's sort of probably the last 5 years. It mightn't be that long. Yeah, it might be 5 years played with it. So, yeah.
You can very quickly make them too mechanical with down a path and relying on yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff.
Yeah, or getting them high in the mind a lot. And you don't. And this is the thing is, he might have been like he's going to be now anyway.
Correct.
So you don't, like a person is a person. You don't know, what changes it, what makes it there. Or a dog is the dog is what the dog is. That sort of thing. So yeah, but I enjoy those sort of stuff, and yeah.
There's a terminology for that called dopaminergic, where they're just stuck in that high.
Yeah.
That's a conversation for another day, mate. I'll talk to you about that. That's a long one.
Yeah.
So in simple terms, for me to understand it, the idea of what you're doing is you're teaching that pup how to learn.
Yeah. Same as if you put it into human context, the reason you want kids to learn their alphabet and start counting and reading books when they're very, very young is that if they start at, let's say, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, or you can start them early and whatever, if they start then and another child starts when he starts school at 5, the data says that on the general population, like there'll always be outliers on that, but the child that starts at 5 will never ever catch up to the one that started earlier. So the earlier you can start, the better it is.
Yeah.
But
in saying that, one of my self-critical faults is that I'm a pretty lazy bugger. So I have good intentions, but I've got to say that I don't always do it, and sometimes I get a litter of pups, and I just don't spend the time, or a dog, and that's probably what lets me down on the dog world. Is I'm not a very good trainer. I get bored very easily with doing the repetition, whereas I watch what my horse people do with a horse, and they can, repeat over and over and over again over a 5 and 6 year period until they get that dressage horse to be able to just do something with a flinch of the calf. And I'm like, I don't have that patience, I don't think.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about your current team, mate?
Not much of a team going at the moment. There's a few there. But yeah, I've just had a bit of a retirement session, I suppose. So one of my old favourites, Tess, she's just pulled up the boots last week, actually. I went, no, that'll do you. She retired from work for a while. So, retired from trialling. And she's missed at work, I can tell you. She was just a very good work dog on all aspects of sheep, cattle, paddock, yard, whatever. To her, and then most of the things I've got are either I had a pretty handy Capri bitch, so they're either descendants of her or second generation. So got another one or two sisters, Georgie and Cougar, which are both George Nina, Sunraysia George and Capri Nina pups, but they're both at the other end. So one's very paddocky and one's a bulldozer. So Georgie, she's going back to Jamie, a mate of mine who owns her. He's going to have a couple of runs with cattle trialling, and then and the other one I've just leased out to a mate. He's keen to get some pups out of her. I'm like, you go for it. If it gets you a start, that'll be good for you. So, and then Ziva, who's she's probably up and coming, I suppose. But yeah, there's a few little crinks in the armour there, which she's sort of her, and then there's a couple of young ones which they just fill the gaps, I suppose. So yep. So a few young pups there. So I think I've only got 8 or 9 dogs or something, which is kind of nice at the moment. But yep. So not too. Still looking for more.
Yeah, 8 or 9 for now.
For now, that's it. And why Kelpies, mate?
Sorry?
I just said, why Kelpies?
No, don't care.
Yeah,
So I had a very good, those that trialled for a while, I had a very good border collie fella that was trialling. He was a really interesting dog.
Orca?
Yeah, Orca.
Yeah.
He had a heart about the size of a pea, but we don't hold him. Well, not much of a work dog, but he loved to play, and you could play with him. And he's probably the first dog I really had that you could actually have gears on him and lift him up and drop him down and actually get him. And he's probably one of them dogs that probably taught me more, especially about trialling and that sort of stuff, because he was pretty fickle on keeping him thinking that he was going all right. So he taught me a lot on how to shape sheep and how to actually get a dog up when you need him up and how to get him down when you need him down. And he did. He had gears, and he's still alive, actually. Retired him to an old agent just not far down the road. And he's very quick on his feet, black front legs, which unusual for collies, which I think is what helped him. Big swishy tail, very unpretty dog. Probably the ugliest dog I've ever owned, I think, but that's all right. He was cool. He was good fun. So I've had a few collies over the time. I know I don't mind. I've never bred a litter of collies. We did breed a litter out of Orca, but they weren't put together very well, so wasn't my bitch. But no, I like work dogs. Yeah, I like dogs that'll do a job. And if it's black and white, so be it. We were discussing, I should say something controversial and tell everyone the big difference. But no, and look, I'm big on horses for courses. If you've got a dog, and I don't care if it's a crossbred or a black and white or a black and tan, and he fits the job that you want to do on your place, and you can do it efficiently, well, I reckon go for it. So there's you look in North Queensland, there's not a lot of Kelpies, and one of the reasons they love their collies is the leg under them. That big tall grass, and they love a bit of leg under them. They got to be able to travel. Same as the heading dogs in New Zealand. They're pretty big dogs, and they like them, big leggy dogs, so they can get across the country up in them hills and stuff. So it's all horses for courses for what someone wants. So that's not for me to judge. And when you're out on the hill, usually most of us are by ourselves. No one ever sees what your dogs do. Like, you can do all the stuff you like on a trial ground, but the great moments you ever have with dogs, I can guarantee you, there's no phones to video it, and you don't tell it because most people don't believe it. But when you see what good dogs can do,
So you searching obviously for a dog that does a job, but are you searching more for a yard dog, paddock dog, cattle dog, or the ultimate all-rounder?
I asked Princey. Princey came up here and did a few schools in me trying to learn how to put sides and stuff on a dog. And I said to Princey, can you have a dog that can do it all? And he said, you can have whatever you want if you work hard enough. And that's not that I work hard for it, but I don't see any reason why you can't have a good paddock dog that's a good yard dog that's also good on cattle. And you can take it to a trial on a weekend too. Yeah. That's pretty much my criteria, that they've got to be able to work cattle. We don't do a lot of cow-calf stuff here. There's a few reasons why we don't do it. Well, very rarely do I do a cow. Oh, yeah, used to do a fair bit. We had another block 2 hours away, and we used to do a lot of cow-calf stuff out there. But now I don't. Yeah, and it's more that I find you're actually de-educating your calves as much as if you don't have the right dogs, you're better off no dogs. Is thoughts. So, and our cows are pretty quiet. You can poke out in a motorbike, go and get 100 cows in, walk them to the yards, they get to the holding paddock in front of the yards and they pretty much put themselves in the yard. So they know that's home. So, so my ideal dog, there are a few traits that I really like. So grip and hold is my go-to. I cannot stand dogs that can't hold a mob together. That's my first thing. And I'll take a dog that's probably softer and doesn't have as much strength and power that can still hold a mob together over a really powerful dog that can't hold them together. Because when you've got some rough country, and here at home it's not rough, it's a pipe dream going mustering, but we've got some eastern country and eastern fall there, and it's big blady grass and pretty scrubby. And I tell you, I'm not carrying a sheep out of there myself. And like, you struggle to ride a motorbike in a lot of the country. So yeah, you need them responsible. You need them to get around a mob and hold a mob together, and then you can put them somewhere. And if I have to go and help them put them somewhere, but it's very rarely it happens. So that's my go-to. Same as cattle, I prefer a mob to go to. I wouldn't like. I'd love more strength than my dogs, but I don't want to compromise the hold, the grip and hold sort of thing. So, yeah, it's all work in progress. Yep, I haven't found the perfect one yet. I'll keep looking.
Has there been an influential dog for you other than Orca?
Orca probably wasn't an influential dog. He taught me a lot, but all my dogs have probably taught me more than what people have, I think. Spending the time actually watching what they do. Back in the early days, I had a dog, Gus, and he was by a dog of Neil McDonald's, Bogus, and he was a pig-headed mongrel thing he was, and I think I was about his fifth owner. But he did some stuff that I just went, oh, like when you're starting out, you don't realise what a dog can do until either someone says, have you seen what this dog does? And it was only that a bloke said, every time we're putting a mob through a gateway, he used to come up to the gate post and I'd be up him going, get out of it, you muppet, what are you doing? And all he wanted to do, and he could be mid-flow, and old mate said to me, just let him go. Let him, I reckon he'd be right. And he could have sheep flowing through a gateway, and he'd just slip through the gateway and go out and just hold that lead and just track with the lead beautifully and hold that mob. So by the time the tail of the mob's got through the gate, you've still got them all together, and you don't have to go and gather them all up again and go again. And like, in pastoral country, great. And I'd never seen a dog actually been able to do that until I got him. So he probably taught me a lot of, and he was very paddocky, and he's still capable in the yard sort of thing, but temperamental critter he was. He'd never quite bend. And I compromised and went, well, it's a game you want to play, well, that's how I'll play too. We liked each other. But from a work point of view, I've had a few sort of handy ones, but from a breeding point of view, Nina's probably done more on that front, and sort of shame she had to retire early. She sort of did a hip, jumped on by a cow. But she's bred some nice pups for me.
Do you mentioned they're breeding some pups? Do you breed many pups for yourself, mate?
Oh, I'd like to, but it frustrates me that I don't have the time to do it properly, and I don't like doing half a job. And we anyone that has lived in Walker, you've got about 6 months of the year that's not real pleasant. It's a hard gig, if you trying to have pups through the winter is a tough gig, so you sort of lose half those options, I suppose. So I have done it, and I will do it, and I'll probably do it again, but if I bred 3 litres a year, that's probably enough. Yeah. So I was breeding a fair few probably 3 or 4 years ago, but I've joined a few, but I probably haven't. Yeah, not a lot, but yeah. And I find it hard finding what I want. Yeah.
What do you enjoy about the breeding aspect?
Oh, the biggest bit I probably enjoy is actually when someone else gets them and goes well with them. That's probably the Yeah, or like, yeah, you drop a little pup on the ground and you know what mum and dad are or whatever else, and then you see the stuff coming out and you go on, yep, I like that straight up. And the sad thing is me being I'd say probably amateur and pretty green to breeding compared to some of the more experienced fellas that, it's fairly hit and miss, I reckon. To breed like some of the top breeders in the country, there's 20 and 30, 40 years of breeding that's gone into that. And some people just have a knack of, doesn't matter whether breeding sheep or breeding horses or breeding whatever. Some people can just go, that and that will do something. And it's a gift that they have. And that's really hard. So, yeah, it's probably a bit more hit and miss, I suppose. You get some good ones and you get some not so good ones. But, yeah.
What are you looking for during that joining? Like, are you going line breeding or traits, or is there any method of the madness?
Yeah, I'm probably just at the stage now I can probably start trying a little bit of line breeding. Whether I want to double up on some of that stuff, I don't know. That's a work in progress, I think.
Yeah.
Like breeding, to be consistent, you probably, it's a 15, 20-year project to do it and to know where you're going to go and what's going to give you what and what's going to do that. And unless you go the other option, and if you've got 20 bitches or something, you can fast track it, but I've got no intention to do that. I have enough trouble getting in before dark as it is, sort of thing. So leave that to a commercial sort of breeder, I suppose. But so no, I probably I'll breed what I like with what I like. Yeah. And then old saying, and then hope for the best,
You mentioned Capri Nina there and Sunray to George earlier. Have you got any lines that you like to follow yourself?
Oh, that's been really good for me. That I think I did 3 joinings of that, and good for me and good for a lot of other people. There's a few of them about. They got their faults like anything, but I think that could go on, and some of them with the right mix can do a bit. So So Tess was out of Nina, but she was sort of she was by a dog, Salt Pan Grumpy, and he was a big, strong, good all-round dog who had some pretty good genetics back in there, and it just sort of mixed. And so Tess has never really bred very much at all. She's probably too soft and bred to the softer side, which I like the paddocky side, but that was just too far that way, I suppose. Either that or I wasn't patient enough to wait and see what came out of it.
You mentioned earlier, you go, I'm a lazy trainer. What age would you start your pups?
So my program with my pups is as soon as I can get them out of the den or box or whatever, I start taking them for walks. I want them out. I take them to the dams, or without their mother. Like I want them coming with me, and they're probably coming out probably start at 4 or 5 weeks. Some litters earlier, some are later. As soon as I can do that, they can start coming with me, and then actually where I play with my sheep's only just down it's only 100 metres from the house. So they're 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever it is. I just go for a walk down there, and usually it ends up the day that they switch on. She's a Mayday call to someone come down to help me, and because I don't have them in a yard or anything. I just have some sheep down there, and I just go for a walk through the paddock, and they switch on and go, oh, yep, cool. So I don't really push them to switch on, but I'll let them whenever they're ready, and then so then I'll sort of try and get a look at them and then see what's there, and then hopefully the hardest thing is you want to try and have a look at a whole litter, but sometimes that can be 10 or 12 weeks. And just to hang on to a whole litter for 10 or 12 weeks, I think it's too late for a lot of people to get a pup at that age. And they start going mad and start driving me mad, and it just doesn't fit my systems, I suppose, that I run. I could probably go and get them all and tie them up and change, but and just there. But I don't. Yeah, I prefer to move them on and let someone else have the chance of getting a good one. And yeah, I usually say that you always sell the good ones. I don't know. You can't pick a pup, I don't think so. Yep.
How do you pick one then?
Just
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a gamble still. I do like part of playing with them and stuff is I do like having them chasing tugs or chasing rags and you can't pick temperament and those sort of things. I don't reckon on. Well, the softer pup that's sitting at the back of the kennel. Like I don't think anyone wants him. But whether it's a bold one or a middle one or whatever, I don't know yet. But you can. It's probably, I reckon, 70% accurate that if you got a tug run along and you watch the ones that break out wider, they're going to be the wider ones. The fellow that just goes straight in and mugs it. Generally that's going to be how they work. But that doesn't show you strength and it doesn't show you cover. It doesn't show you a lot of other things. It's just that how they're naturally going to break out and how they're actually running. You'll see them whether they want to get to the head a fair bit on them. And that can be at 5-6 weeks of age, 7 weeks of age. You can see a lot of that stuff, but it's still doesn't mean much really at the scheme of things. It gives you you think, oh yeah, that's a cracker, and I've tested it a few times and gone for the widest one, and that's what I got.
Yeah.
To go for the directest one, you can get that too. Lucky you got the water, Dan, wasn't it? Yeah. So it's a gamble, but I'm quite happy if someone else gets good ones. Yeah. Good for the industry. Good for nothing I love better than a cocky sort of going, oh yeah, wouldn't mind getting a pup, and then coming back 2 years later and just going, oh look, I could sack the rest of them and just have that one. Like to me, that's gold. And he's like, oh, my job's just got so much easier, and I'm like, well. And look, and I'm quite happy. Sometimes I get a really nice pup, and I might do a school, and there'd be some young person that's having an absolute crack, and they got something horrible that is just never going to do something for them, and I'll just go, well, yeah, I'll take this one, put this under your belt, and it'll get you a start, because that's the crux of it. And I was lucky enough that I had blokes that gave me a start, so I'm quite happy to help other people get a start.
So you're doing many schools?
Yeah, I don't know how many I'm doing. Probably doing 6 or 8 a year, which is probably enough. The school things, I'll probably run a bit of a different model to what most do. So I'm doing a bit more corporate stuff, which is some of schools probably as much stock education as it is dog training. So going onto farm and they might have 6 or 8 staff and actually putting them through some stock handling techniques and a few of them things, and then mucking around with some dogs and going there that way. And actually, it's about getting better production. So those sort of things, I really enjoy them because you can see the monetary gain that I did a gig there and they were running a lot of cattle, and actually another bloke, he's actually taken it on. They sort of went, we don't. Do you mind if we get another fellow in here who's a dog trainer? Well, I'm like, no, go for it. Whatever floats your boat. It's not my place to wrap it all up. I'm quite happy for other people who know things better than I do. So, but there's 3 blokes been in there, doing just stock handling too, and they've gone from staff just absolutely cranky. They're running 10 or 12,000 dry cattle, trade sort of stuff, and they were just frustrated and Brumby running, and you drive through the place and there's just cattle leaving you. To within sort of 12 months, he said, "Oh no, we can see the production gains." I said, he was originally going to do some measurements and see what the difference between educated and uneducated, and he said, "No, straight away." He said, "No, there's no point. Don't even need to measure it." Yeah, and they've gone the full circle. They're getting people in to educate weaners now. Yeah. So that to me is a win, and it's not just me. It's everyone that's been involved. It's all the staff that were we're open-minded enough to take on new stuff, and it's a whole job thing. It's an industry win, I reckon. So yeah. So and if it's not that sort of stuff, because I'm big on probably trying to change culture. So I reckon the Achilles heel of the sheep industry in Australia is the stock handling and the dogs. That's everywhere you go, people tell you how they hate sheep, and the reason they hate them is they don't understand them and they don't know how to work them. And my probably agenda is to change that. So by trying to change culture, what I do is if someone wants to host a school, then I say to them, you get who you want to come to that school. So we actually sort of get pods of people that are changing that mode together. So then they come back and actually come back and play together. And some of the wives aren't kind of happy with me sometimes because there's beer involved, and Sunday afternoons are written off because they're supposedly dog training, but drinking a lot of beer at the same time. But I don't. A lot of people say, "Oh, we never see your schools or whatever," and I don't sort of advertise a lot. Well, I've got no need to, I suppose, but I've got enough to keep me going, sort of thing. So, and I enjoy doing it. The main reason I started doing schools is to learn more. That's the big thing. People ask you questions and you go, I don't know. So I'll go and stew on the question for a week and go and play with the dog and muck around with it and try and nut out why or what and what you can change or where it is or whatever it is. So, and I still love going to schools too. Like there's a few blokes around that I'd still love to go into a school with and learn from them. And that's the greatest thing about trialing is sitting there talking to people and discussing the dog and what's going on and the your peers are the greatest wealth of knowledge as far as I'm concerned. And people think, oh, it's all about winning and everything else. Well, winning's the bonus, but it's about what you can learn and what you watch a bloke do something and just the tiny little subtle things and you go, oh, that's clever how he did that. Yeah. So that's what I enjoy about it. Oh, and the people. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, like to start your pups, you kind of just like go for a walk in the paddock and let them switch on. What about once they're ready to start doing a bit more with? Have you got like an ideal setup they use, or do you still just do it in just hang out in the paddock?
No. Well, the dogs that I really like. So the paddock's probably when I say it's a paddock, it might be a hectare, something like that.
Yeah.
Hectare and I don't know, something like that. Is the pups that I really like. If I've got a trainer mob in there and you take a pup down there and he goes, oh yeah, and he can get them and he can hold them. That's the sort of pup I like, straight up.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of pup that I think we should all be looking for, is that they're just natural. Like they just go around sheep and they just grab. And even if he doesn't bring them to me, if he can get them and grip them and hold them and you go, yep, now there's a pup. There's what I like. And then and if I've seen that, then I go, oh, that's cool. That might be something I'll go with. But then I bring it back into a smaller yard, and I still want to be able to influence them and get them to move around. I'm pretty casual about it, but I say I'm casual about it, but it's the little things that make big differences. Yeah, and I still get it wrong. Yeah, big time. Still, I probably don't spend enough time with them on the particular stuff. Yeah, like sits, I'm hopeless at a sit. It's I don't do it at work. Anyone that's seen me trial, you'll see that, and I'm quite happy going. Well, I don't really think that I train a dog, but I condition a dog. I want him doing what he needs to do, and I don't need to be sitting there going sit left right. It's like the little job we did today. It's probably from the furthest paddock to the sheds. I'm going to guess 3K something. 50 years pup there. He's probably 6 months, 7 months. Like, drop him on them and he just bringing them to me. That's it. That's to me a training, and you can see the fatigue kicking in by the end, and he's starting to break out a bit wider, and he's starting to leave the head alone a bit. But you got to have the right thing to start with, So,
Yeah.
and even pre-trialing, my go-to before I go to a trial is just free them up, go for a walk, get them a bit sharper, and let them feel stock and let them do what they're bred to do. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned trialing there, mate. How long have you been trialing?
Oh, I'd like to say 5 years, and I've got to where I hope, but no. Having a crack at it probably 20 years. Probably when I came here, I did a few before. Did my first trial at Tailem Bend, I think it was in South Australia. Yeah, we had an esky sitting on the edge. I think it was Tailem Bend, somewhere down there. There was a pub and a pontoon and an esky on the pontoon. I thought this is the go of this dog trialing business. So, dogs went no good, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's the people and it's the challenge, you know. I know we've got to put judges out there, but I've probably got to the stage now that I like to think I don't care about the judge. That's his job and I do my job, sort of thing. So, yeah, and you know, it's the last couple of years I've probably seen a fair bit of the country by doing it. Like,
As I say, you've just had a big trip recently.
Yeah, so well, that was to go back a step. The reason I ended up going to Western Australia is I think I said 3 years ago to my wife, because I worked over there when I was 21, and I sort of been always wanting to go back, but I'd never been. And a lot of mates still there. So and I think when you're 21, a lot of stuff's a blur for some reason. So I said about 3 years ago, I said, next time the Australian's on in Western Australia, I'm going. Don't care if I've got dogs or not. I'm just going to go. So, and Anika said at the time, she said, well, where is it this year? And I said, well, Tasmania. I said, oh, righto. And she said, well, why don't you go? So I rang a mate, and so we tootled on down there, and I thought, this is the go. Then you sort of go to one, and you get the bug, and you catch up with a few blokes, and you see a bit of country. And I'd been to Tassie, mum and dad. That's where they actually moved to. Was Tassie, so I'd sort of been down there a few times. So, and same deal, catch up with a few mates and see a bit of country and run a dog. And, yeah, so it's as much about the good mate of mine. He calls me a gypsy, so I don't mind driving and I don't mind travelling around a bit. So, yeah.
Is there any form of trolling you haven't done here in Australia?
I don't know.
Or what's your favourite form of trolling?
I love a utility. Yeah. But in saying that, I also love the tough stuff because I don't have the tough stuff. Like my dogs aren't big backing and top knot and sort of dogs. But I'm loving the tough stuff more because I don't have it and I want to learn more and get that sort of stuff, I suppose. So I love going to a trial where there's something different, something quirky or something weird, and just going, oh, I don't know if I can do that, but I'm going to have a crack, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah, like the USD they ran the other day, like probably a bold statement, but I reckon that's probably the best dog trialing in the world. I reckon that's the go-to. And a utility, we run a utility and a cattle trial here, which is very similar to a USD, I suppose. But the difference in a utility is you don't get downtime between the yard and the paddock.
Yeah.
You know, so
you do it all in the 15 minutes that you've got for the paddock.
Yeah, well, Walker, we do it about 8 because we've got 3 minutes to get through. But yeah, no, that's. But then I wouldn't mind. Sometimes the utility is a bit too paddocky for me. To be, you know, I don't know. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Like I love the outside. I love three sheeping, but I don't have the time. Like to three sheep competitive, you need to train, which I told you I'm. Yeah, I do enjoy. I could probably enjoy outside stuff, training that more than I do yard stuff, backing and barking and those sort of things. So, yeah, the inside stuff's not my forte because at work we probably very rarely probably even do it there. We hardly ever back a sheep, really. You know, we don't load, we don't put drenching races tight. with just 2-lane drenching race, 1 sheep wide. If we're up the drenching race, we're using handlers now. So you're feeding dogs into it. Quite happy for a dog to be on the side, but a sheep flow pretty well. You sit a couple of dogs at the back and they're going to come pretty well. Load the shed, you shape them up to our shed and they pretty much fill it. There's backing in it, don't get me wrong, but they're not the sort of dogs that you're going, well, I've never really tried them, but, you're not going to go and pack a race for 6 hours with them, I don't think, which I don't know. Many people do that anyway. I don't know, but yeah, yep. And my dogs, sometimes you go to like Monaro or somewhere and I think my dogs look up at the sheep and think, oh, my crikey there. I think so, yeah. We've probably got some of the smallest sheep in the country, I'd say, but that's with what we do in the wool job. So, yeah. Specialty sort of item, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier about like your schools, you said there's no way to learn like holding the schools. But and you just mentioned before about judging as well. Do you have the same kind of outlook on judging trials and learning as you do as running schools?
Yeah. The best seat in the house is with a clicker in your hand. Yeah. And watching dogs, you don't really ever watch a dog as intently when you're sitting on the side as what you do when you're actually in the box seat. Yeah. And you see, because you when you're sitting on the sideline, you don't get the feel of the handler quite the same as when you're in the ring there with them. You're sort of up on the coal face, so to speak, and you can feel the handler, and you can actually feel him lifting or dropping or coming up and down, or where he's at, or he puts a little in there, and you think, oh, I've never noticed him doing that before, and then you watch the reaction and what he's got on his dog. So I love the little subtle bits, and it's a game of inches, and I love watching for inches. That sort of stuff is yeah. And some of the top handlers, you just think, how did they do that? But if you break it down and you get to see them, yeah.
You're on the committee of the Yard Dog Association, and you've been involved with it for a bit of time, a fair bit of time now. Why do you give your time, and what do you get out of it?
Well, originally, I think there was some stupid rule that I thought was stupid that was going to come about, and it might have actually stopped me by being able to go and I can't even think what it was now, but I remember I got my goat up about it anyway, and I went, oh, that's bloody stupid. I'll go down to one of these meetings and see what's going on, and that's probably what got me there to start with. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder why you keep doing it. But the sport's given me a lot, and I'm a big fan on if they give you a lot, you got to give it back, and that's what makes it great. And it's I want to be able to go to a dog trial of any form and enjoy myself. And probably the thing that keeps me there is that there's people that want to change stuff for them, not for the greater good, I suppose. So it's. I like to think that it's setting the standard for where dogs are going to come from. Like, it should be the pinnacle of the breeding programs and what's going forward for the industry. And if some probably controversial, but my opinion is 3 sheeping, as good as what they do is, it's gotten too far. It's left. It's out of agriculture now. Like those, in most cases. It's like a simple thing. Why does it always have to be a right-handed course? Left-handed, whatever that, left-handed. The same way.
Yeah. Right hand.
Yeah, right.
Like, why not turn it the other way? Because at work we've got to send them both sides, and judge where you're actually judging utility. He said, I don't understand why all your dogs are running and they're looking about all the time. And I'm like, because that's what we need on the job. We need them looking about. We need them to looking for, searching for stock and going around. They don't need to know that they're going to be 10 metres out from a let-out gate,
Yeah.
So that's probably how I got into it, I suppose, to keep it real, I suppose, is what I like, and keep that genetics going, or the game going, to try and keep getting the best dogs going, and that's where the best genetics come from. In saying that, there's a lot of good genetics that doesn't trial, but it's great to see it tested, and you see what people have got, So whichever trial they do.
How do you see us keeping it real? Because if we're trying to improve it to the fact of, like you said, like a lot of those good genetics are trialing, you're needing scores of high 90s to make finals. How do you keep it practical and real and put in a different twist that keeps it real? Because I see that with the 3 sheep, they got as everyone's level progresses,
more professional.
It becomes professional rather than real, and it becomes a points game. How do we not do that with the yard?
I think you can set courses that become real, and you can set challenges that the top ones will come through.
Yep.
So recently, the times got shortened up fairly well up here in the last 5 or 6 years, and that changed a lot of the dogs that were coming in, because we're not. So as much as I'm into low stress stock handling and doing it nice, if I've got 6 to 7 shearers sitting there and they've got empty pens, you got to fill them. I don't care how you fill them, you just fill them. Yep. And the same as if I've got a truck to load, you load it, get him on, because he's not making any money while he's sitting still. So as much as I want work, so that's where we've got to keep it real. I think that you can always make it tougher without having to be picky about picky things. If that makes
technical,
as much as you need technical, but I like it to get on with it. And like the variations are, most trials are very similar. You can change. There's a bloke up here that, mate, he sets a course and that the angle of a panel coming up to a gateway can change the whole dynamics of a trial.
Yeah.
A lot of us just go and build a trial, we make it square, and we put a couple of forces in it without a lot of thought. You can tweak stuff, and the thing you got to be careful of is you tweak it. Sometimes you can make it too hard, and 90% of the people don't get around the course. That's not much fun for everyone either. So, and that's where it's great in yard trialing is as you go from an encourage right through to an open, it goes up the levels, and you go up the levels. And, if you don't have a dog that's an open dog or got some skills in him, I'm not saying you can't put a maiden dog in it. So we have open classes for everything pretty much up this way just because of our numbers. But, if you've got a maiden dog, he needs to be good enough to have some skills on it, whether it's a drive in it, whether it's a big off balance, whether it's straight across a line, those sort of things, or whether we go back to starting to trial with 25 sheep like the old days. You watch the old videos. You put 25 sheep on the ground and you'll sort of a lot of dogs out, and you'll find out what's a genuine work dog.
Yeah.
25 compared to 12, it's chalk and cheese. And, we don't need to just move 25 at home. We need dogs that can handle numbers and shape a mob up and get them going. So, I don't know. It's a tough one, but I think easiest way to keep it real is keep real people.
Yeah.
No, that's actually pretty good saying. Do you want to trademark that one? That's pretty good saying.
Once it leaves my mouth, it's anybody's.
Actually, you brought up a really good point there as part of that conversation as well. And, I think it's highlighted there, we hear that trial dogs don't make work dogs don't make trial dogs. But you mentioned genetics. And if you're not out there putting yourself out there, well, then your genetics or somebody else's genetics aren't on show. So I find it hard that people make statements like that based on not putting yourself out on show to prove your genetics as well. Like, we actually haven't looked at it at that angle before as well. It hasn't been mentioned on that angle.
Yeah, still I reckon be careful, because there's a lot of good dogs out there that don't trial and
correct. But that's what I'm saying. But like putting them out there and doing it, like, people hear about it, right? But there's plenty of good dogs out there that people will never hear of or know of because someone hasn't put themselves out there.
And that's not necessarily detriment to the job, because they'll be breeding what they want to breed, and then there'll be the odd pup go here or the odd pup go there. So they'll still be getting out there. Yeah. Like, see, there's a lot of sheepdogs in Queensland, and there's not many trials in Queensland. and it's different to see. Trialing has become very technical. There's a lot of ring craftsmanship, I suppose, into trialing. You watch, and I love seeing a green handler coming out and they can just handle a dog. But if I'm judging them and they're doing stupid stuff from a trial point of view, you go, well, I'm not going to crucify them for that because they don't know that you don't know what you don't know, So they're good dog people and they can handle a dog. But a trial there's a whole lot of stuff. It takes a fair while to learn. Don't move at a gateway or wait till they're across the line or those sort of things. So sometimes I reckon it'd be good if we get a trial and we just load them up 30 sheep and just say, go at it, boys. Go at it, team. Not necessarily boys, but whatever. And go, right, well, let's just put them round, Had a speed trial the other night, which was a lot of fun. And it's amazing how quickly you can do it. I think the top scores were 2 minutes on what was, I think the early in the day was a 6-minute course.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Around and there was a few things that were pretty loose in it, but if you got to do it, you can do it, sort of thing. So
yeah.
And utilising a bit of stockmanship with that, probably helping your dog a little bit by moving around and whatnot, like you would have worked.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always find it really interesting watching them because people's dogs get lost because their handler's doing something totally different to what and you can tell the people that, and we were talking about it and I said, just think it's about to rain and you got to get sheep in the shed quick. Just put them around like that. That's the go, Because I'll tell you, if the thunder's rolling and you got a team of shearers looking out the window at you, you'll figure out how to get them in there pretty quick. Because they'll let you know if you don't.
No doubt. Mate, is there anyone you'd like to see us sit down and have a chat with on Dog Talk?
We were talking about this the other day a bit. There's a few blokes that I know have been asked a few times, but are too soft, I'll say, to go and have a crack. Chris Donahue would be interesting. He's sort of been out of the game for a while now, but he's probably a cranky old bugger now that doesn't want to say too much. But, the other one, Spud Thomas, who's up in he's at Catherine, works at the research. Well, he did work at the research station up there. Like he was big on educating stuff. Like I love that sort of those blokes that got bush skills, I suppose. Yeah. There's plenty of good trialers around. I'm sure you work it through your list. Those fellas, I suppose. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Awesome.
As always, one duck the size of a horse or 20 horses the size of ducks.
Well, I'm gonna go an each way bet. I reckon I could take both because I could sell my wife into the horse version and she'll handle it. And old Kurg or anything with feathers, she'd have it sorted. So I'm right.
I love it. That's good.
That's awesome. Mate, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it. I know we've been talking about this for some time, so it's great to have you on and have a yarn.
Pleasure.
And to all our cool, mate, thank you. You're welcome. And to all our listeners out there, please remember we learn every day. The day we stop learning is a sad one for all of us. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.